everybody. Welcome back to One Cricket's very special session alongside a very special person. And joining me is a very special cricketer from Netherlands. As you can see, the name out here, and he is a right-handed batter and a left-arm orthodox spinner, if I'm not wrong. And he is the skipper of Netherlands, Pieter Seelaar, joining me. Well, Peter, how are you? How have you been doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm very. We're back in full of things, preparing for the West Indies series. So now, chuffed to be playing cricket again. So all good here.
Yeah, absolutely. And not just the West Indies series. I think there are plenty of series lined up for Netherlands cricket at the moment. The West Indies, then a couple more. England coming back after 11 years in Netherlands. Then again in August, Netherlands and Pakistan too. So, what are your expectations from ahead of this West Indies series?
Well, it's always tough to say before a series, but the first thing I would say is that we're going to compete in all three games. That for us is a massive challenge as it is. But what I expect, I've got a feeling it's going to be some decent and hard fought cricket. The West Indies got a bit of a reputation to play some flamboyant cricket. Out here in the Netherlands, it also takes a bit of graft, a bit of hard work. So, that's our style of cricket. So hopefully, that there will be a good matchup. In order what to expect, we've also had to deal with Ryan Campbell's situation over the last sort of couple of weeks, and I expect the guys to go out there and just have that little bit of extra about him to make sure that we can make him proud and from what he's been recovering from.
Absolutely, yeah. This the Ryan Campbell. All of a sudden, we got to hear a few weeks back. He's been suffering from a cardiac arrest. So, how is his situation at the moment?
Well, he's all good now, which luckily and miraculously, some might even say, he's out of hospital. He's only recently returned to the Netherlands, and he's actually the Cambo of old. So he's been in touch. He's watching a lot of cricket again. But in terms of his health, he's okay, I suppose. And he's now focusing fully on his recovery. So he's on the right track, and we've got to thank the mighty lords upstairs that he's still with us.
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. I pray for him and wish that everyone prays for full recovery of Ran. And in his absence, well, there's another news that Ran Cook, who has been appointed as the interim coach of Netherlands. So I think it's too early to ask about it. But what are the flavors he's adding into the Netherlands setup at the moment?
Well, literally, we're about to find out because today Ryan Cook arrived yesterday. Today he's running his first session, so he's pretty much getting to know all the players, all the people around the sort of whole Netherlands setup. But yeah, what is he gonna add? I'm curious. I'm excited to see what he's gonna bring to the team. He comes across as a lovely guy. We've had a lot of good references for him. He's been working a lot with Gary Kirsten, who's been with us last year, and a couple of guys actually went to Cape Town to attend or to visit his academy, or the Gary Kirsten Academy, where he's the leading coach. So he already knows a few guys. He's been in Holland roughly 3 years ago, where he did some work with the under-17s actually. So he's not a stranger to all of us. To some of us, he is. But yeah, it's obviously very short notice. A lot has happened over the last couple of weeks, but with him now being here, hopefully the next 2 weeks we can focus on just on the cricket and about the series that's upon us in 2 weeks' time.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. As even I realized that he has been a part of the Gary Kirsten Cricket Academy in South Africa. He's also got a huge amount of experience, being a part of the Bangladesh cricket team setup, the Hobart Hurricanes in the Big Bash League. So plenty of experience with you guys. So Peter, taking back, rewinding to the last couple of months for Netherlands cricket, it hasn't been that rosy if I can say, the T20 World Cup, not the way you guys would have ended up, like to end up. And again, after that, there was the Afghanistan series as well as the New Zealand series. You guys tried your best, gave good fight, but unfortunately, the results were against you. So there are always positives, right, from every tour. So what are the key takeaways that you can note it down, from these couple of months?
Well, let's put it this way. If we look back at what you said, starting at that World Cup T20, which turned out, unfortunately, to be a kind of a disaster for us. But out of bad things, also good things happen, right? So, it got our thinking straight. We got our processes back in place, because I think after sort of the whole COVID situation, we weren't as prepared as we would have liked. That's in all facets of cricket. So, no excuses or blames there. In the end, we just weren't quite good enough. We weren't up to it, and the other teams just simply outplayed us. And you got to acknowledge that fact as well. Obviously, then straight into the South African series, which was for us actually quite good to have cricket quite quickly following up from that, in order to set some things straight. Not only within ourselves, but also showing the world that we actually can play cricket, which unfortunately we didn't do at the biggest stage. And then the South African tour also got hit by the Omicron variant at that stage, which unfortunately just was a massive downer, I think, for everyone involved. We got there, we prepared well, we played a decent first innings, keeping South African down to sort of that 270 score, and Pretoria, we felt that it was beneath par. So there was a positive in terms of the way we showed South Africa and world cricket that at least our fielding and bowling was up to the mark at that stage. Then moving on to the Qatar one, that was a very difficult series, just in terms of there were a lot of players that were not available due to various reasons, which at start wasn't great. Our lead up was massively interrupted by Corona. I think pretty much everyone had Corona before we got over to Qatar. So it was a bit stressful to actually get 14 guys or 15 guys on the plane. Getting to Qatar and only having 3 days of preparation, of which 3 days it rained, didn't quite help, because we came out of winter, and then I think we in those conditions we competed very well, but to a certain extent. We didn't compete the full 100 overs. I think we bowled pretty well in pretty much all 3 games. And if you look at a positive, a massive positive was Scott Edwards, man of the series in the end. Even though he was on a losing side 3-0, I think he was the only one that consistently made batting look easy in very tough conditions, and facing a Rashid Khan and Mujib, and he made it look pretty simple. So there was a massive positive for us, but it also showed that we, in terms of as much as a positive that we competed, it was also like it's not enough to compete for 30, 35 overs with the bat or with the ball. You've got to be competing for the full 100 overs. That's what you get when you play bad opposition. Those little details start counting towards the end. So it was a massive learning one, because we also brought a lot of youngsters who hadn't played a lot of international cricket or played in the stadium for that matter. So a lot of guys got their first proper taste of international cricket. So, and I'm not going to say they succeeded, but at least they've gained that experience, which, for us is a very good thing moving forward. And then towards the New Zealand series, which was, I think you've mentioned it earlier on, we competed in patches. We were at sometimes very good, but unfortunately on more sides we weren't. And our struggles with the bat continued. It's something we need to work hard on, I suppose, because it's simply not good enough. Talk about positives. I think our bowling unit held its own against a very strong batting lineup. We did well, and we actually, in terms of how we want to go about it, executing our plans, I think that was a massive positive. and a positive, for an 18-year-old, 19-year-old Vikram Singh to announce himself sort of on the international stage, playing like he belonged in patches, because you got to admit, like scoring 30s is not going to cut it. It's not going to win you many games, especially at the top of the order. So that's something for him to obviously progress, but obviously the nerve and everything. So his first step of international cricket was all right, but now I think over the last winter, if I talk about the positives, the experience gained, it's only going to tell now when it comes to our home summer. Everyone's had a little bit of a taste, and now it's up for them to mature as quickly as they can. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. All right. And I think I would like to add something to what you've said. I think Michael Rippon was someone who was very, very impressive in the New Zealand series. And is he the next big thing in Netherlands cricket?
Well, if you look back, Michael Rippon has played a lot of cricket for us, even before the New Zealand series. So between sort of 2014 to 2017, he played a lot of cricket in Orange, and he was always very good. I wasn't surprised that he was going to go to New Zealand and try and sort of move his way up in the cricketing world. I think he's been a very consistent performer inside the whole New Zealand setup in terms of their domestic cricket. Now it's interesting to see if he's going to be available, because obviously he had a pretty long, tough summer, and I'm not I'm not quite sure where he's at with New Zealand cricket, because a left arm wrist spinner don't come along that often. So I'm pretty sure New Zealand's having a look at him as well. And that's going to be quite interesting, because they got a European tour coming up. So I'm not quite sure what's going to happen there. But is he the next big thing? No, because then I would look rather at the 18, 19-year-old guys that are playing for us. And, if you look at the Buster Later, 22, Vikram Singh, 19 years old, I think those are the next big things in Dutch cricket.
Yeah. You sound good, mate. Actually. Next thing.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I would like to take a few things, say a few things about a few of those cricketers playing cricket all around the globe. Fred Klaassen, then Steven Myburgh. So there are cricketers who are playing all around the globe, rather than not just playing the national cricket. So what are the key takeaways? What are the positives that you feel, they come, they learn new things, and how do they add more strength to the team?
So obviously, just purely their quality adds to pretty much any side in the world. Like Fred Klaassen, for example. It wasn't that long that he was doing the hard yards in Holland. Moved over to Kent, purely due to himself, because he put in the hard work at a fantastic couple of years in Holland. And he got picked up because we went over to England, played a couple of counties. We played Kent, and they were actually saying like, well, this guy, we really like what we see. So full credit to him. And in terms of what they add to the setup is and it's mainly on overseas tours, because during our summer they've got their county commitments, which is obviously their first line in job. And that's their work, So unfortunately, we don't have them 12 months a year with us, because that would add obviously greater value to sort of our setup. But when those guys are around, I would say the main thing they add is sort of that professionalism. What does it require to be a professional cricketer? What does it require for me to perform day in, day out? Rather than just having a fluke, and in terms of when they add sort of that I would say cricket, just the cricket, like the way they talk about the game, the way they live the game, the way they play the game, and the recovery side of things, the preparation side of things, that helps us. Guys who are on sort of that semi-professional amateur base, that value cannot be underestimated, because they come from the fully professional environment into ours, and they want to. We're trying to keep going nicely upwards, but I think when they are there, that it brings that proper professionalism into it, and guys feed off that, guys live off that, and then it's up for us to bring it into our setup when we're back home. So their knowledge and their professionalism. That's the main takeaway for them heading to the setup.
Yeah. And speaking about the upcoming tours, there, as I mentioned earlier, also there are a couple of tours, to be played by for Netherlands, and basically home tours, all of them. So the next thing, like there is also an ODI Super League, which is around the scheme of the things. So where Netherlands are not really at a very good position, really at the bottom of the table, but this seems like a perfect opportunity for you guys. Like even if you can get as many as wins possible, so you can be among the first half. So what are those things you guys are doing? Keeping in mind the ODI Super League.
So obviously, for us now being on the top of the table is I don't think it comes as a big surprise. Obviously, we would have liked to be better. After winning, especially winning Ireland, the 2-1. I've got a really good feeling about the group moving forwards. We still got a couple of games up our sleeves against South Africa. So, but it was disappointing. Going over to Qatar. And maybe the results don't say we got quite close, but in terms of the strides we've made as a side, Scott Edwards doing well, and taking into account that a couple of our main players weren't quite there, and you still kind of got a feeling that you compete. Let's put it that way. Is that I think we. For us, the ODI Super League, obviously, we want to be part of the top 8, which now looks beyond reach, which fine. That means we're going to go into the qualifiers, which, is not to be unexpected or, which is perfectly fine. But for us, I think it's very important to gain as much of this experience as possible. I've played for too long, 18 years or so. And you don't get those regular fixtures against full members, and for us to take away that experience, that by the time the World Cup qualifiers come somewhere next year for the 50 over stuff, but even beyond that, a lot of these younger guys need to take the experience. So by the time we get back to sort of our associate cricket, trying to move up the ranks, is that those guys are in a better stead and can actually take Dutch cricket forward. So that to me is very important, and that there's all sorts of things to gain for us, apart, obviously winning the games and taking points, but there's also in terms of the team, and also on the individual. You see guys grow, mature, so there's a lot to be gained from this whole ODI series. All of them, and what better way to have sellout crowds in Holland when you play with teams like Pakistan, England, West Indies. It's nothing but great to look forward to. Nothing but great to have that experience, because hopefully some guys, and potentially even myself, will look back this in a couple of years and be like, this was one hell of a summer. But we need to earn that right, and that comes with a lot of hard work. But yeah, we're starting to get there, for us to use this ODI Super League, I would say would be for building up this sort of strong base for us to move forward again. Whenever this stops.
Yeah, this is very well said, Peter. And like as you mentioned right now, that you have been in the Netherlands cricket setup for almost around 18 years or so, right? So the 18 years is not a small little figure, it's a huge. Well, yeah, so you must have seen a lot of ups and downs in the Netherlands setup. But if you look at 18 years back in Netherlands cricket, what are the differences that you find out, now and 18 years back?
Oh, let me tell you, I've seen a lot of ups and downs, and that naturally comes in cricket anyway. So that's the type of sport where it ebbs and flows, and it's like a roller coaster ride, and that's anyone's career anyway. So, what are the main differences? If you look back to us 18 years ago, we would only train on a Sunday morning, once a week, and only play like a handful of games throughout the summer. Where fast forward 18 years, playing against the likes of England, West Indies, Pakistan, New Zealand in one home summer is probably the amount I've played against that caliber of teams over the past 18 years. So, we've made huge strides in terms of becoming a more professional team. I'm not saying we're fully professional. We're still on that sort of semi-professional level, which is already a way bigger step, because when I started, it was pretty amateur, pretty village. enjoy while it lasts kind of type of thing where, now guys are making a living out of it, or at least trying to, or partly. And, we've gotten ourselves up to a standard which is reasonable. I wouldn't say great because, there's always room for improvement. And, as you said, we're at the bottom of the table. The World Cup wasn't great. So, I've got to turn it down. But we are actually looking forward to going, sort of on that rise because I think our one of our best performances was in 2019. We had a series against, like I said, a series against Zimbabwe at home. We won the ODIs 2-0 and we tied the T20s 1-1, which, the one we lost went down to the super tie game. Great cricket, anyway. And then sort of late that year, we won the World Cup qualifiers with a very, very strong team. Settle in nicely, where we thought moving that forward, having guys like Van der Merwe, Ten Doesgaard, Ackerman all on the team, it was all set to be great. And COVID hit, and it's hurt us a lot. I don't want to use an excuse at all, but in terms of where we were,
very common for every
even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Every team struggled with the same thing. So I'm not saying it was just us, poor us, not at all. But we didn't quite find it at the right time, where a couple of teams, especially at tournament, did. And that also comes with a lot of hard work. But the question was what was the main difference? Was the definitely the professionalism. Now we train 3-4 times a week. Guys are doing the analysis on opposition players, analysis on themselves, on the own team to make sure that we've got our strengths and weaknesses right in order to to think about winning these games of cricket where, a couple of years ago, 2 decades ago, we, it was like, it's great that we're playing these games. And now we're actually looking to compete and look for ways to win. And that's a massive improvement in terms of the way you want to play your cricket.
Yeah. And as you mentioned about the COVID-19, this is something which the world has faced, and there are goods, but there are bads also about it. And I think the world has suffered. So when the COVID has struck Netherlands cricket, so all sorts of bio bubbles and all those things have come up. So how does it affect the mental health of cricketers, and how do you guys overcome it?
So especially the traveling part, once we were allowed to go, where it was tough. First you only read about bubbles and this and that, and then it's tough. Yeah. And I was a little bit like, wow, surely it's not that bad. But I must admit, I'm a pretty social guy, outside of cricket. And it, being locked away on a hotel floor, takes part of the charm away from it. Don't take me wrong, when you go on cricket tours, you're there for the cricket, and that's very important. But if, cricket is such a mental game that if you're stuck in your hotel room, stuck with your own thoughts, and this is not a negative thing, but stuck with your teammates, the cricket will always be the chat will always be around cricket. And sometimes it's just nice just to go somewhere, go out for dinner, and just completely forget. Absolutely. Take your mind off cricket, in order to be fresh again the next day. And I think we've struggled with it a little bit in terms of not being able to get away from cricket, because it can get such a thing in your mind. They talk about cricket is pretty like 80%. It's a mental game, and I think we haven't quite coped with it. Unfortunately, we've lost quite a few players actually in recent times due to mental health reasons. People, who've, if you have jobs and to mingle that with cricket, but also being away from families for a long time, whilst it not being your main job, it was tough. And Ben Cooper resigned on terms of those reasons, so he's moved back with his missus back to Australia. Tobias Fizet, who was actually quite a big part for T20 cricket. Just didn't want to be away from his family. Two young kids, his wife, and his own company to run. It was very tough for a couple of us, I must admit. But now the world's opened up, and I think everyone is starting to recover from sort of the the whole COVID situation. And I think it's a good thing because you see a lot more happier faces because people can socialize, mingle, and, have a life outside of cricket. And it's as important because, also the guys that study, just only had meetings on Zoom and everything was on the computer. So there was hardly any escape. And I think now guys being a lot more fresh mentally is helping, and I think that doesn't just go for our team, but I think that goes for cricket around the world. And I think if you look at the human side of things, because people forget that cricketers are humans as well, not just robots playing cricket. It's a much nicer place to be in right now. Was sort of like that year and a half ago. So we've struggled with it, but I think it's now given a place, and everyone's moving on in the world, and that's a good thing.
All right. So here's an interesting thing, as we come to the Q end of a session, we'll move to a rapid fire segment. But before that, I've got a few questions, and I would like to ask you, Pieter, you have been a leader now, but a few years back you weren't. So what is the main difference between Pieter Seelaar, the cricketer, and Pieter Seelaar, the leader?
It's a very tough question for me to answer, because you probably have to ask the other guys.
That is what my job is, to keep with that end.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm with you. Let's put it this way. I would say before I was a leader, I wouldn't say clown, but I was quite a big joke around the team. I love the social element of it. I like the human side of things. So the leader became a cricket nuffy. So before that, I enjoyed my cricket, but there was always room for jokes and stuff like that. Where I think as soon as I became a leader, I just took my job quite seriously and actually started to watch a lot more cricket and really sort of got that sort of student of the game attitude about it, which, it's been a revelation. It's been fantastic. It's not so much a difference, but first I got to know people sort of, or the players on their, what do you do? What do you like outside of cricket? Where now as a leader, I try to be, it's still as much of a friend as possible. It's not quite the same. You can feel it because obviously you're the one making decisions, and you have to you're disappointing guys at times, and sometimes you can be a bit rough in terms of when you speak to players or the group. You can be a bit, but you have to separate those things. You have to be the leader. You have to make the tough calls, and sometimes you have to give people some strong words. Where on the other side, I do like to be a human as well, where just forget that I'm the captain and that we can just talk about all your insecurities or whatever, or good things, for that matter. That doesn't really matter. So I would say I haven't changed. Well, that was my aim, is not to change that much as a person. I've changed as a cricketer in terms of becoming more of a student of the game rather than just a guy that enjoys his cricket, where now you're a lot more involved in the game, and it's been really fun. It's been awesome, and hopefully I haven't changed that much as a person, but that you probably have to ask some of the other guys.